What's up, everybody? So here I've got 8 pistons out of a small block 350 that we have for our S10 project. So we put new rod bearings in these pistons and new piston rings, and they're all ready to go back into the engine block. However, we still have a good amount of carbon on our piston heads. Now we've taken a rag and rubbed these down and got them down to this point to where all we have left is this caked on layer that doesn't want to go anywhere. So we need to find a way to take it off. So I was wondering, what is the actual best way to do this? So I decided to look into the forums and see what everyone kind of agreed on. And I took away 8 different methods and products that people use to take carbon off of piston heads. So everyone has the one thing they swear by, and I'm here to find out today which one's the best. So I'm going to take all 8 of these, put them into separate Tupperware containers that we have here. And I'm going to soak the pistons in each one, including the water, for probably about 30 minutes. And then we're going to take the same rag. So I'm not going to switch between using like a Scotch Brite or anything. I'm just going to take a rag and we're just going to go in and see how much effort it actually takes to get all the carbon off. And we'll put in some good effort to it if it's required. And then after that, we'll see how clean each one gets, and we will rate them. We'll see which one was the easiest to do and which one's the most expensive, which is easily the Chem dip or the Seafoam are both the most expensive, and we'll see what the best solution is. So let's get started.
Okay, so we are going to start putting the pistons into the different Tupperwares to soak. Now I started with the water here and I chose the piston that was the cleanest as our control group just because I wanted to give all of the chemicals a chance to really clean off the pistons and use the dirtier ones. So moving on here to the next one, we're going to do some Dawn dish soap in this one. And this is the only one that I mixed with water just because straight Dawn was definitely not the move to do here. That is just a concentrated soap. So I mixed this with water, but I did a lot of Dawn, so it's a very strong solution. Moving on to the diesel, this is one that was interesting to me because I definitely expected to see more gasoline or kerosene over diesel, but I did see diesel multiple times, so we are using diesel. Then we're going to be using some acetone or lacquer thinner. This one will be interesting. I don't really know if this is going to do a good job or not. And then we're going to continue on here to the WD-40. Now, WD-40 is not the best penetrating oil. I don't know what it's going to do to the carbon on the pistons. I think it serves better as a lubricant more than anything. Maybe a PB blaster would do better here, but either or. Here we just organized everything so that we can see what we're looking at. All right, moving on to the brake clean. I don't really expect this to do a good job at all. I don't think it's going to penetrate the carbon whatsoever and help me out, but we'll see how that goes. And then here I'm doing the Seafoam. Now Seafoam I think is going to do a great job because Seafoam is a product that you usually put into either your gas tank or you spray it into your intake, and that is made for removing carbon from the inside of your engine while it's still together. And then here I have one of the dirtier pistons for the Chem dip because Chem dip is designed for doing this, so I think it'll do a good job.
All right. So it's actually been about an hour. I had to go ahead and charge up the battery in my camera, so I just extended it to a perfect hour. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the pistons in the same order that I put them in so that it's as accurate as possible. I know when I put them in, it took me time to get from one end of the table to the other. So we're going to go ahead and remove them in the same order, so it should theoretically be just the same amount, roughly, of time for each one. So here is our water. Okay, so here we are, all of the pistons removed. So right off the bat, if we just take a look over here at the cups, I kind of just threw them on the floor here. You can see some of them are clearly dirtier than the others. So some of them right off the bat, without any scrubbing or anything whatsoever, have clearly done a better job, and those three would be right here. We have the Seafoam, which is the darkest one, the most impressive. In the middle there, we have the WD-40. Now that one does have some swirls of dark in it. It's a little hard to tell, but it does. And then up in the right there was Diesel up there. So the Diesel one also is quite dark and has a lot of swirls of carbon floating around in it. So those three already have done some work into removing the carbon from our pistons. Now I'm going to go ahead, and you've probably already seen, but my rag of choice that I'm going to be using here today is actually a sock. I just so happen to have 8 clean socks that I have available for rags, and so I think it's going to be a perfect rag. I can use a new one for each piston, and then we will be able to keep our variables down for this experiment here. So here we have the water piston. Now I'm going to go ahead and just kind of use my sock to brush away and see how much of this I can get off with some elbow grease. And I'll do this for a good minute here, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so it's been about a minute. I put some good elbow grease into it and really tried to get off as much as I could. And we can see I did get some more of the caked on carbon off, but it's still, especially since this was one of the cleaner pistons to start, this still isn't very pretty. And I did that on purpose because I knew the water wasn't going to do all that much. It was our control group, so I picked a piston that wasn't all that caked so I could save that for the other chemicals. So that is our water piston. Now, Dawn piston, well, I'm going to go ahead and scrub this one for a minute as well, and we'll see if we can do a better job than just plain water. Alright, so it's been about a minute, and, well, I guess I took some off. There's not a lot on my rag here. Honestly, I don't think this did any more than the water did. I don't think we saw any improvement here whatsoever. It wasn't any easier. I was definitely scrubbing just as hard as I was with the water. And we didn't really get a clean result. I would still want to continue cleaning this. So Dawn was not a great option. Now on each one I am changing rags. So we are grabbing a brand new rag. I am keeping this as controlled as possible. Now, this one surprised me. I said at the beginning that this is one I wasn't expecting. This is Diesel. Now I'm just going to start scrubbing this for a minute here, but this one, like I said, was already dark when I pulled it off. So it had already gotten some of the carbon off before we even started. And already, just as I'm talking here, I can start to see, look at it wash this away in this top right here. This is coming off much easier. So let's give this a scrub for a minute and see what happens. Okay, so it's been about a minute. So we did clear a good amount of material off of this. I'm definitely a lot happier with Diesel. I feel like Diesel did make a difference. Maybe this is something where if I'd kept soaking it, it would have really improved the top of the piston here, because when I first started wiping, I had a lot of carbon coming off quite easily, just with a light brush here with my rag. So I think if it just kept soaking, this probably would have come out even shinier than this, but I'm still impressed with the Diesel results. I wasn't expecting that at all. But let's move on to acetone and see if this can continue impressing us. So here's our acetone piston. This one was one of the dirtier ones right out of the gate. So we are going to go ahead and start with this one and scrub it for a minute and see what we get. All right, so it's been about a minute with the acetone one here. Now, I did get a good amount up from what was there originally, and I can tell that some of these spots, which might be hard to see on camera, have thinned up. So I did take off the initial layer. So I would say it is similar to the diesel. However, I think the diesel did a better job. I'm definitely had to work a little harder to get as far as I did on this one. Than with the diesel, I could tell the first layer of it was just coming right off, and it was no problem whatsoever. I'm pretty confident if I left the diesel, it would have come out super clean. But acetone definitely did more than just water, so it did do something, but it would not be my choice so far. Out of the four we've done, I would definitely choose to go with the diesel. But let's move on to the WD-40, which was another one that was impressive. Just when I took it out of the bin there, it left behind carbon in the bin. So let's try this one and see how that compares to our diesel. Here we can see this one is already much cleaner than that acetone one. But let's see if we can get it completely shiny in a minute. All right, so that's been about a minute. Now I feel like I am in the same scenario as the acetone with the WD-40. I still think diesel was definitely doing a better job at making it easier to take the carbon off. The WD-40 did help me, and it did get me further than the Dawn in the water. However, I do think I'm working for it, and I'm not confident if I left it longer if it would have gotten this piston head clean. But we do see a difference here. So let's move on to brake clean. All right, here's our brake clean head, pretty dirty. So let's give it a minute of scrubbing and see what happens. All right, so there's about a minute of wiping with the brake cleaner. Now, I would say this falls right in line with WD-40 and acetone. I don't think it made much of a difference. I might even go as far as saying that the water was just as effective. I definitely think that I was able to just power through using a lot of effort to get some more carbon off of there, but I don't think it helped me very much at all. So hopefully, as my arm is getting tired here, the next two will prove to be a little bit easier. So let's pick up the Seafoam one here. Here we can see this one is still wet. And this was the darkest bin when we pulled it out. There was a lot of carbon that just fell right off of here after I pulled it out of there. So let's go ahead and scrub on this. Actually, let's do a quick wipe first and see if I just get anything coming off of here. Kind of like our diesel one did. Maybe not as much. Let's find out. Let me wipe this for a minute and we'll come back and check. All right, now I stopped counting on that one, but I think it's been about a minute. Seafoam definitely was up there with diesel. This was much easier to get off, much faster. This was a very dirty piston head when I started. I definitely think if we left it soaking in there, this would shine up really good. The Seafoam was very easy, and I mean, it did a spectacular job at removing carbon before we even started. So, definitely impressed with that. Now, the most common method and product that everyone uses is the Chem dip here, and that is going to be our last one. Now, just a reminder, I am using a sock as my weapon of choice, and I'm doing that because I don't want to shine all of these pistons up. I want to prove which product does the best job. And if I was using a Scott Bright, I was worried that I would be able to clean all of the pistons up pretty good, but I wanted to see which product did the best. Because I don't have the dirtiest pistons here. There's definitely a lot of people that have a dirtier piston and would really need the product to do the work for them instead of the the tool they're using. So let's go ahead and do a minute on the Chem dip here and see if it lives up to the name of being the best. All right. Wow, there is a minute. And clearly, as you can see, this was the dirtiest piston of them all, I would argue, and this has come out the cleanest. Chem dip definitely living up to the name, even without using what I would argue the proper tool to be removing carbon, because a sock is not that. I think it made it so that I was almost able to get this clean regardless. Pretty sure if I just left it in there for another hour, I probably would have been able to get it. So that is wildly impressive. That came off like butter. I would say I got the most of that off before I even started putting in the elbow grease. So let's take a minute here and line up all these pistons and take a good look at all of them together. Okay, now here we have it. Here is every piston and how it came out, starting from water, Dawn dish soap, diesel, acetone, WD-40, brake clean, Seafoam, and then Chem dip. And I gotta say, I think the clear winner and what I would personally use again still stays with Chem dip to do this job. That was the easiest out of all of them. I had to put in the least elbow grease. It was the quickest. Out of putting them all in here for an hour, I'm the most confident that in 2 hours, that one would get the job done entirely. Um, as for price, it is the most expensive. So if I was going for a little bit more of a budget, I had a bit more time, and I was willing to put in some more elbow grease, I would definitely go for the diesel. Um, Picking up, even if you want to use an entire gallon of diesel and dump it all in there together, diesel per gallon right now is $3.60 in my area. So you pick up a gallon of that, you dump all of these in there, and I would give it probably like 5 hours. And I think you would get the same result as you would from the Chem dip in 2 hours. The other runner-up is probably WD-40. I think WD-40 and Seafoam probably did very similarly in performance. Now remember, not all of my pistons were coated evenly, so the carbon I had built up was not even on each piston.
Hi, this is me currently editing this video. Upon editing and looking at the side-by-side comparison here, I'm realizing that I was way off, and Seafoam is definitely the better option here. Yes, my pistons had different dirt levels on them, however, the WD-40 piston doesn't look much different at all, and I don't think I was remembering clearly here at all. So we're going to go ahead and change this to say that the Seafoam worked much better than the WD-40, and that would be the next best bet. However, it's much more expensive than diesel, so I'm still choosing diesel. Anyway, that's all. Back to the video.
But Chem dip is the winner in my brain, and definitely what I'll continue to use. So I think for the rest of these, I'll probably go ahead and put them in Chem dip and grab a Scotch Brite and really make them shine. So now that we've done our test, I'd like to just show what I would normally do now using our Chem dip here, which we found to be our best method. I've been leaving this piston soak for about half an hour. I took the dirtiest one we had remaining, and then I'm actually going to be using a Scotch Brite. Just a little Scotch Brite sponge. I'm just going to drain as much of that off as I can. And then I'm just going to take this Scotch Brite. And we're going to go ahead and just, you can see immediately how much that takes off. Alright, so that's all that's coming off from me right now. But I did want to show what I would normally do using an actual Scotch Brite. How it would normally come off. This is the best method I know. And Chem dip's definitely the stuff. So I'm just going to throw this back in here
probably for like another 10 minutes and get the rest of that stuff off. And if you were more patient and just let this stuff soak, I mean, it would take no effort at all.
Well, that's it. That's the video, and let me know what you guys think was the winner if you disagree with me, or if you have anything that I missed that you think would do better in Chem Dip. Maybe we'll try this again and see what I can come up with. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all later.